She parked her car across the evacuation rail line. On purpose. Said it was unsightly and a threat to property values. I was the one driving the evac train, and I didn't slow down not even a little. Now, hold on. I didn't hit her, but I wanted to. Lord, I wanted to. By the time this all unraveled, Karen was weeping on her HOA lawn with a citation folder as thick as a damn encyclopedia. But it started a week before the hurricane, the one we all knew was coming, but pretended we could outbake with hurricane cookies and a prayer. I'd only moved into the neighborhood 6 months prior. Retired early from the Coast Guard, took a contract job operating emergency evac routes during storm season. Real low-key stuff. Bought a fixer-upper on a quiet little cul-de-sac in a coastal suburb called Sandpiper Oaks. It was heaven until it wasn't. You ever meet someone who makes you flinch at their voice before they even speak? That's Karen. Real name, Sherilyn Kipling. HOA president. Volvo SUV. Wears beige like it's a moral obligation. And every time she talks, it sounds like she's narrating a commercial for bottled water, emotionless, bland, and strangely threatening. She came to my house on day 4. Knocked like she was the sheriff. Sunglasses, clipboard, and a tiny American flag pin that trembled when she got mad. I've noticed your front porch light is an LED bulb, she said without even greeting me. Yeah, it is, I replied, already tired. That's not in compliance with lighting aesthetics. Sandpiper Oaks requires warm tones only. No cold hues. It disrupts ambience. Disrupts ambience. I almost choked. Now, I grew up in trailer parks and storm shelters, where ambience was a can of beans that didn't explode in the microwave. So I did what I always do, nodded, promised to look into it, and shut the door before I said something I'd regret. But that's not how you handle Karen. Karen doesn't want compliance. She wants power. The letters started the next day. Violations for everything. My grass was overly natural. My hose reel was functionally unattractive. My security camera was aesthetic pollution. And each letter ended with the same sentence. Please resolve within 48 hours to avoid fines. I let it go. I always let it go. Until the train. See, my department coordinates with FEMA during evacuations. The storm was predicted to be a Category 4, so they issued an early evac. A supply train had been repurposed into a temporary transport route 15 cars long, reinforced to handle rough wind and debris. My job was to run the train along the designated neighborhood track and evacuate residents too old, sick, or stuck to leave otherwise. Problem? The HOA blocked the track. Literally. Karen held a board meeting and declared the evacuation train a visual blight that reduces home value perception. Then I swear I'm not making this up, she had decorative cement planters installed on the tracks, flanked with traffic cones and a sign that read, "Private roadway, no trespassing." But that wasn't the worst of it. She parked her own SUV across the rails. Put up, hazard lights blinking like she was staging a tragic soap opera. And when I confronted her, she smiled. Smiled. "You're trespassing," she said. "This is community land. The train disturbs the peace. You realize there's a hurricane coming, right?" I asked. "The residents voted," she replied calmly. "We don't consent to the disruption." I swear I had to close my eyes and breathe before I said something I'd lose my job over. So what did I do? I went around her. Literally. I walked around the SUV, got on my radio, and filed a direct obstruction report to FEMA. That got the ball rolling. But I also, and this was key, pulled up a document from the county registrar proving that the train line wasn't her land. It was federally protected infrastructure from a decommissioned trolley route, temporarily reactivated under emergency protocol. Meaning, Karen wasn't just being annoying. She was violating federal emergency procedure. But I wasn't done. See, a lot of people would have stopped there. Maybe waited for the cops. Not me. I had a train to run. And my evac manifest included 2 residents from her very street. So the next morning, I started that engine at 8 a.m. sharp. The ground vibrated. Steel screamed. And every window in Sandpiper Oaks rattled awake. I approached the blockade slow at first. She ran outside in a robe, screaming something about legal action and personal tranquility rights. I waved, smiled, and kept going. Didn't stop. Didn't swerve. Right before the train hit the Volvo, the sheriff's deputy had been called in by HOA to tow crew to pull it off the track. Karen tried to physically stop them, arms flailing, hair a mess, house slippers slapping pavement. She got cuffed for obstruction. Her little HOA clipboard hit the pavement like a gavel. But that's not the end. Oh no. Turns out FEMA loves paperwork. And I'd kept every notice, every email, every HOA violation she'd sent me since moving in. I forwarded it all to their legal team. In return, they forwarded their own investigation to the state compliance office. Guess what they found? Karen had been misusing HOA funds for years. Fake invoices, landscaping contracts with relatives, personal use of community funds to cover travel, security enhancements, even Botox. And guess what else? Those decorative planters she had installed on the track, they were paid for with HOA reserve funds without a vote. The next emergency HOA meeting wasn't so much a meeting as it was a public reckoning. The entire neighborhood came. Some stood. Some brought popcorn. Karen tried to speak. She really did. But every word made it worse. I was trying to protect our property values. You endangered lives, Sherilyn, someone shouted. I watched from the back. Quiet. Calm. Until they asked if anyone had additional remarks. I stood. Yeah, I said, clearing my throat. I drove the Evac train. I'm also the one Karen tried to block. I've submitted full documentation to FEMA and the state attorney's office. Gasps. One guy actually muttered, "Holy hell," under his breath. Karen? She just sat there, pale, trembling, like the storm had finally reached her front door. By the following week, she'd resigned. Not by choice, but by subpoena. Her SUV was gone. Her planters removed. And the HOA temporarily disbanded pending full audit. Me? I got a letter of commendation from FEMA and a hand-baked cherry pie from the lady at Lot 12B. Sometimes justice rolls in slow. Sometimes it's 15 cars long with reinforced steel and emergency lights. And sometimes it doesn't take detours. Not for Karens. Not ever again.